Good morning, Paul. And everyone else that is out there. It is Saturday, what is it, November 16th?
Yep.
November 16th. Can you believe it's Christmas is next week? So, but good morning. I'm Lay'Na, co-host of Artists Unplugged Live.
And I'm Sharon, co-host.
And this is episode 6. Today we're going to talk about the business of being an artist. So, what have you been up to? And then our co-host Bella wants to. Come here.
I have been up to tonight. Today is an art party at my studio. So Open Studios art party. So I was preparing for that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get way more work done in a short period of time than I could actually do. So each day I was like, okay, so I won't do that and I'll just finish this. Okay, I won't do that, I'll just finish this. Anyway, got some work done, some work started that I'll get finished in the next couple of weeks or so. And I just have to hang the art today because it's not actually hung, but we, organized it. And actually, Paul and I have an installation that's out in the hallway. So anyway, that's at
The tree.
Yeah, the tree with the crates behind it, and it looks really good.
Okay, good.
And what else? It's at 5 o'clock today. Everyone is invited. 1870 Murphy Avenue, and it's Murphy Rail Studios. So anyone is welcome to join. And that's basically all I've been up to. And, creating, I finished some pieces, submitted to an exhibition. And I think that's it for me. How about you?
Trying to rest, but that hasn't happened. But last show we were both kind of in submission mode with several submissions. So and then I had the makeup conference in parallel to that. So I just needed a week to rest my brain. So the past couple of weeks, past this week and last week was meetings and taking a break from the studio, taking everything back to the studio because I brought everything to the house to paint. Same thing, submitted to the show. Submitted to the show, and really just gearing up to be back in the studio next week and preparing for holiday.
Okay.
That's about it. And then supporting by going to shows and like I'll be coming to the art party today, and
Right.
that's really it.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the end of the year.
Yeah, I can't believe I actually. Now this is crazy because I was actually contacting someone who had 2 different dates for a submission, and instead of saying November, I said September. And so we're going back and forth, and then it dawns on me that I said September. And she's like, where do you see September? Then I realized the whole month of October went by, and it like missed me. It's like it went by in such a flash, and I had to sit there and say, okay, what happened in October? Right? Because I completely missed. I feel like I missed October, but a lot lot October.
We were busy in October.
So I'm trying to stay a little more present, so I don't feel that way about November and December.
Gotcha.
And November, it feels like it just started last week.
It did.
And it's now it's the middle of the month.
Yesterday was the first.
Yeah, it really was.
Yes, it was the
It
first.
really was.
Yeah,
So-
October was just, just being in creation mode because my new body of work, and so I had to produce the work in order to submit.
Yeah.
I said, thank you, Bella. I'm fine. That's where October went because again, I looked up, I'm like, wait, today's the 31st?
Yeah.
I said, it was just the 2nd.
Yeah. And the dates and days matter because you don't want to miss a submission.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So when those days are clicking by like that, we have to really remain present.
Right.
Okay, so today we're talking about the business of being an artist from the standpoint of being, prepared with everything on the other side. There's the work, and then there's what supports the work. So that's looking at artist statement, your bio, your CV, and which for a long time drove me crazy. I don't know if it's because I wasn't sure what I was saying, or a lot of times I felt things would switch, but now everything is pretty settled. So an artist statement is basically talking about your process. And it can be general, your process in general of being an artist, what you do, how you do it, what you prefer in terms of materials and why these materials, those things are in your artist statement. And always first person, because you're talking about I this, I that. And I said it can be general or specific. It can be specific to a body of work. For example, I was looking over our artist statement, Paul and I, for the collaboration. And that's in first person, and we talk in that statement, we talk about the why behind this piece. So it's called the Tree of Life. So it's our philosophy on how we view trees in the world and the importance of them, and we speak about that in the statement. And then how it's created, how the piece is created. So
do you want me to check the comments while you're
no, I've lost my life.
No.
Anyway, that's so weird.
I'll pull it up on mine. Now I was going to ask, which you kind of just touched on it, but I was going to ask because of the submission that we just did. They asked for your artist statement and how does the work fit into this theme, and I was like,
yeah,
what?
I had that same feeling about it as well. The theme is basically small works,
right?
And so I spoke to working small and then taking that and going larger at some points, but sometimes it can be, that one was a little more generalized, but I've seen, for example, Art Call for Art, that was about summertime in Atlanta. And what does summer mean to you in Atlanta?
Okay.
And so if you have a piece and you can tie it into that theme, I submitted, I didn't get into that one, but I submitted, and it was a piece that was a tree, because trees are, again, another piece on a tree, but trees are so important for me. And I remember when I first moved to Atlanta and I'm walking down the Beltline, and there's a tree that doesn't have leaves on it anymore, and it looked like the branches had its arms out welcoming me,
Oh.
So that is a specific, I spoke to that in my work.
Okay. I'm trying to get on live. I'm not being. I'm trying to get on live so I can look at comments.
I'm actually.
You're on there. Okay, perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So with that, you think it's a good idea, or it's necessary, to have more than one artist statement, or have your one that you can shift and move according to.
You have to shift and move.
Okay.
Because they can say, what is your artist statement in 150 words or less, versus you being very verbose. So if they just want a one sentence statement, that's very different. A one sentence statement on this work, on this piece, is very different than your general artist statement, for example, that you would put on your website, or, being fuller with your response and of the why. So it's what this work entails, how it was created, what is the context, the cultural context behind it, or your thought process behind it, all of that. It's about the work and the creation of the work. That's your artist statement. Okay. All right. So then you have your bio, and I've gone through many iterations on my bio, and your bio is really a story of why you're here as an artist. And you can talk about what drove you to be an artist, what inspires you to be an artist, why you work. Again, here you can come into why you work with the materials. I was listening to last week, I went to Artist Talk, and she was talking about, she uses just masking tape. Everything she creates small and large installations using masking tape. And it was about money. And, and also how can you use something in a different way? Things like that can go into your bio. Your goals, your education, whether you are formally educated or not formally educated, you tie that in somehow. And sometimes your bio has to be short again. Sometimes they can say in 1,000 words. I wrote a bio the other day and I was like, I edited and it's like, I was thinking it was 1,000 words, and I was like, I'm under 1,000 words.
It's 1,000 characters.
With spaces.
With spaces.
And like, so now it's like whittle down, so that I'm, what you really want to say is in there. And so that was really interesting.
And I think with the bio, again, I think it's good to have you have your main bio, and then you have like a medium bio, and then you have a short bio.
Right.
And then that way, when you get ready to do something, you don't have to, it's not an added to do.
Right.
You can just pull from your file.
You can maybe tweak it if there's something needs to be tweaked. Right. And the bio is always in third person. So the bio is if you were getting ready to talk at an artist talk, someone is going to read your bio about you.
And your artist statement is your I statement.
Is your I statement, right. Again, context. Story, for example, from mine, I never thought I could be an artist, and that ties into how I do what I do, that type of thing. So, so that's your bio. And then there's your CV. And your CV is your resume, basically. And everything that you've done, exhibitions you've been in, education, if that's appropriate. I'm not formally educated, so I've done workshops and courses, so I put that in there. Exhibitions, fairs, residencies, workshops, I've said already.
Is it good to do like auctions or private collections?
Yeah, you can do that. Okay. You can say, you have work in private collections in whatever areas, in New York or here or there, if other countries, wherever it is someone may purchase your work. And, and always update it, which I forget to do. Update it once you do something new, even if you haven't sent, for example, if you submit to an exhibition and the exhibition accepts you, do it right then and there. Because, you can, if you don't do all of them right away, then you're looking at, okay, what else was I in? Where else was I, and I think I was telling you the other day, I was going through pictures and then I saw my work hanging in the lobby of a condo, and I thought, I didn't put that on my resume. And that's basically a solo exhibition in a lobby of a condo that I didn't include on
your CV.
Yeah. And you can talk about exhibitions that may be juried or non-juried. Separate them if you
solos.
Right. I think that's that's it. So those three you will always need in some form or fashion, whether applying for grants, applying for exhibition, anything you would want to apply for. You're going to need some form of artist statement, bio, and CV.
And it's just good to have all that ready,
to go.
accessible in a file, named so you can pull it up quickly.
Right.
Also because you can, if you're producing for something, so now you've like produced something for the submission, then you go to submit, you're like, oh shit, I don't have a statement.
Right. And that's the worst thing, to try
I
to
gotta update my CV.
do an artist statement when you're under a deadline.
Mhm.
Because I'm usually submitting at 10 o'clock at night for a midnight deadline.
Well, you're better than me. I'm like 11:57.
So you don't want to have to, you want to be able to just pull really quickly, change a couple of words if you need to for this specific submission, but you need to have those things ready.
Have
definitely.
everything ready to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's it for those three.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to speak on the artist brand.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense, and I was leery about saying brand, but I was like, at the end of the day, it is artist branding.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, having a website or online portfolio. I don't think it's necessary to have a website if you're, well, I'm gonna retract myself right then and there. I think it is necessary to have a website, but I do think it is important to have an online portfolio
Right.
as well. Whether your online portfolio is an Instagram account, whether it is artist storefronts.
Right. I don't use art storefronts.
Artist,
there's
artist storefronts and artist archive. Artwork archive.
Right.
Artwork archive.
Yes. That you can use as your website.
As you can use as your
Right.
website.
So I think too, there's a distinction if you're using a website just to show your portfolio, or if you're going to sell on a website.
Right.
I don't sell on a website. There's many people do, and it's a great way to earn money, but I like to sell my work in a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I have a website. I sell on my website. So I think also it's the idea of whether or not you want to, again, if you want to have just a portfolio, or if you also want to sell yourself. Now, I personally like Squarespace, or I like Shopify.
right.
Squarespace was initially designed for photographers' portfolio purposes. So like I've always had my makeup website has been on Squarespace for over 10 years. And then, when I decided to do commerce with my artwork, I automatically went to Shopify because it's just easy to set up. And so, and I wanted to mention those so we can actually put them in the show notes and put them in the links on YouTube, so you guys can click and find those things out. But I do think those are some of the two easiest, outside of if you want to do artist specific ones. I do think Squarespace and Shopify are two of the best ones that you can use because they're just easy to build and they have great help if you have to contact them for help.
Right.
With that being said, if you're going to do an online portfolio in addition to or only, if you're going to do it on Instagram, I truly believe that you should have a separate art only one. Not everybody wants to see the behind the scenes, the dog, the cat, the food, what you had.
Right.
Some people love that. So I have both because I do have some people. It's like, when we go out to openings and to shows, people are like, oh, are you on Instagram?
Yes.
And if you haven't posted on Instagram in the social way, a month or two could go by and then they're not seeing any work.
Right.
So I created a separate one that's just artwork. So as I finish pieces, take the pictures and post them. And if nothing else, I can give them that account.
Right.
And that way they can see my artwork. And then my behind the scene one is linked in bio.
Yes.
And if you want to see more behind the scenes or learn more about Lay'Na, you can click on that and you can see all the shenanigans.
Right.
So I do suggest that, you do have a dedicated online portfolio in some form where people are just seeing your art. Because if you're talking to a gallerist or someone who's curating, they just might want to cut through all the muddle and make a quick decision.
Right.
And so it's easier if you do that. With that being said, make sure that you have high quality images.
Yeah.
Does not mean you have to have the most expensive camera. We both have our cameras set up and we also have our iPad set up and our phones. Some of my best pictures come off of my phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends on the lighting and where the sun is that day. So I do think that, making sure that you have.
Yeah, I think we could do a show just on photographing your work.
Yeah.
Because depending on where you're sent, it's the color and the all of that.
The afterwards, you know, it is a process, you know, and definitely that could be a separate show where we talk about like any apps or anything that we use in our process. But definitely I see websites in all realms of business that just, you know, take a picture and throw it up. And it's like, is that really showing your work in its best light?
Yeah.
So, you know, just make sure on the base level, make sure you have great lighting. It doesn't have to be a fancy setup. It could be a blank wall. I have a dedicated wall in my studio that has a nail in the middle. And when I need to take pictures, I take the picture that's up there off, and I just use that one spot and pop my pictures up and take it. And then if I want to do any other styling, then I just do that at a later date. But just making sure that you start out with those high quality images, and making sure that, again, with your CV, your resume, your bio, when you finish a piece, take the picture. Take the picture. Take the picture and have it ready. If you don't stop and upload it right then and there, schedule something within the next couple of days where you're dedicated to uploading those photos to your Instagram or to your website, and having it archived as far as your inventory as well. And I'll get into that in a minute. Expenses, making sure you're keeping track of your expenses. Make sure, a lot of times with artists, we're just buying supplies and we're doing this and that, and we don't know what we are spending opposed to what we're making, regardless of where you are as far as your selling journey. You know what I mean? You know, if you sell it, you sell it. If you don't, you don't. Or if this is like, no, this is my career, you know, so therefore I need to make X amount of money per month. Just knowing that how much you're putting out with supplies, rental studio, everything from submissions. You know, some submissions are free, some submissions you pay. All the, like every single little expense that you use that goes towards you creating art, you need to keep track of. You know, online memberships, if you pay to be verified on Instagram, just everything. Make sure you keep track.
How do you use a software?
I do spreadsheet. I'm a numbers girl, or if you're a Microsoft person, Excel. But I'm a numbers girl. I love spreadsheet. Numbers is easy. I can do one form with different sheets within a form. So I just have one form that's expenses, and I have a tab for every single month.
Okay.
And the great thing about that is a lot of stuff is repetitive. So I just created it, and I just duplicated it for every month. And then if something new pops up, I just add it to that spreadsheet. I don't have to recreate it. And just every month, I just plug in my expenses and I total it up, and then I can see what's going in and what's coming out.
Right.
And where I need to stay out of Sam Flax. That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. But making sure you keep track of that. Cataloging your work, and this goes into having great images as well. So you're taking great pictures not only for your online portfolio, you also might want to print your images to take to a show, put them in a portfolio book and take them to a show, if necessary. But you also want to archive everything that's in your inventory. You know, heaven forbid something should happen, which just did the flood in North Carolina. A lot of artists lost their bodies of work. You know, some artists are working on restoring the pieces that they can restore. So you also want to make sure that, again, you keep it somewhere. I use Airtable. Airtable kind of operates like Excel numbers. You can actually attach photos in the spreadsheet. So I just have a list of my work and the year it was created and how much it is and the dimensions, and then I attach the photo, and it's right there. So I know everything that I have. And that also helps when you are sending work out, whether it's submitted to a show, whether it's on loan for something, whether you did an auction. There was a time where one time I was looking for, I said, what did I do with that piece? And it was before I was before I was doing inventory. And like, I really had to scratch my head. It's like, where did that piece go? And I'm like, I had taken it to work or something like that. It's like, so just making sure that you do have an actual inventory of all of your work.
Yeah, especially when your body of work starts to really grow. You really need that, because it's one thing if you have 20 or 30 pieces. When you start to have 100 pieces, you need to know where they are, where they're gone, keep track of what's sold. That happens to me sometimes, especially the smaller pieces. You know, if I have a lot of small piece works on paper, that's harder to keep track of. The big pieces, yeah, it's not as hard, but it's important to know where it is, what location, and I don't remember names, so I don't even remember names of my pieces after a number of years. Some do, because there's some that are very specific and I remember, but even when I'm working on a piece, when a name comes in, I write it on the back immediately because I will never remember it again.
Oh, okay.
So I write it on the back immediately, so I know what the name of this piece is. I actually use an archiving. I use Artwork Archive, which also I have my portfolio on there, and I'm able to keep track of exhibitions, which pieces I've submitted to where, when is a due date, when will I know, all of that. It can keep track of all of that. So that's what I use, and I'm able to generate reports very easily, things like that.
And that's a great thing. That's a great option. You can do the same thing in Airtable or in a spreadsheet. Some things you can't do, but like in Airtable, I can do all the information and attach the picture.
Right.
But you can also create like drop-down menus.
Yeah.
So like I have a separate one for submissions. So when something comes across, or you send me something, we all send each other stuff.
Right.
I tend to forget because I save it in Instagram.
Okay.
So what I do is I go to Airtable, I put it in Airtable, I put whether there's like a split, if there's an entry fee, when is it due, when will we find out an answer, when is the drop off, when is the pickup, what is the show date, and then I have an area where I put sold, whether it's sold or not.
Yes.
And then so in my drop downs are like submit, done, accepted, rejected. So I know exactly what's going on with each submission.
Yeah.
And then I have a line on each submission where I put what I submitted. I just type in the name.
Yes. Okay.
And then that way I know, but I can also set it up to link it, which I plan on doing. I can set it up to where I can link it to my inventory.
Okay.
So then I can just go in and put link record, and I can link it to that piece in the record, on the record sheet. I can do it that way. So there's just different ways that you can do that, but I highly recommend it that you do that.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on to collections. So as far as an artist and being a brand, I'm a collection girl. I have a friend who's not an artist who's like, you love a collection. She even noticed, like, you love collections. Like, I am a collection girl. 3 is my number, so I tend to work in, if nothing else, it's going to be 3.
Yeah.
It's going to be 3. And just having, what are you known for? What is your signature? There are artists who they're known for. There's an artist I follow. She has a character called Chicas. If she don't pay nothing else, she going to pay Chicas.
Right.
That's her thing. You know what I mean? Another young lady, she's known for bees. Like she does many things, but there's always gonna be a bee somewhere in her collection. Another artist, she always puts 3 black stripes in her work, whether you see it or not. You might just see a moment of it, but she always puts 3 stripe black. So what are you known for? You can't get known for your style of painting, the textures, the colors, but also there's some works that I'd be like, oh, that's so and so because I see the bee, or that's so and so because that's a chica. So what is your signature? And it's not that you have to have one, in the sense of, I think we as artists, we get scared that we're going to get stuck in a certain style that doesn't allow us to try other things. But I do think with everything, you're known for something. Nordstrom's is known for their customer service. You know what I mean? BMWs are known for their engine. It doesn't mean that they don't do other things, but they are known for something. And I think that's good as an artist, being known for using, even if it's like you always use blue, you always use gold leafing. There's something there's just that moment that you're always present in that painting, even if you change, or painting or sculpting or whatever you do. But there is that thing of like, the artist is here. Regardless of what style you're doing. You've got a little moment in your work. And it doesn't necessarily have to be seen, but it's there. Through conversations, I've discovered this, and I feel like this is a good kind of framework, is to have a studio collection. And for me, I feel like those are my bigger pieces, because I came out the gate painting 36 by 36. My favorite size is 36 by 36 or 36 by 60. But when I started doing shows, and I'm trying to lug 36 by 36s, I did a show with you, and you unpacked in 10 minutes, and you packed it up in 5. I'm like, well, okay.
I only brought the small pieces.
I was like, wait a minute, how did I get here? How did she get here after me? Then she packed up faster and was like, okay, bye, I'll talk to you later. I'm like, wait, what just happened here? And then I realized, I'm like, okay, I have too many big pieces, too many little pieces. And so I really do feel like as an artist, and what would behoove you to do is to have a studio collection, which could be whatever your biggest piece is. And then you have a show collection that's what, like I because of you, I now have smaller works that stay packed. And I'll take them to the show, and whatever doesn't sell comes home with me, and they stay packed. So if I decide to do a fair randomly next Saturday, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I just throw it in the car. If I want to create more small works, I can, and I just put them in the crate. But I specifically now have a show collection that's what goes.
Okay. See, I don't think of those as a collection. Like my collections, and everyone will have a different way of creating their collections. But so what's hanging in my studio now for the art party is along the blue turquoise theme. And it's where I've used a lot of paper for texture in my work. I have other pieces that don't have that same type of texture with oil and cold wax. So that is a collection for me. Now, hearts may be in there, hearts may not be in there. Other iconology, whatever the word is, that I use, like I'll use a blooming flower sometimes, for example. That can be in there, or it might not be in there. But what makes it all cohesive is that I'm using paper for texture and I'm using oil and cold wax. But I'm just saying how I create how I look at a collection. So our viewers, for example, may have collections, but create their collections around something else.
Right. That's why I say collections is a broad term, because I create collections the same way. Like my collection now is a knitted collection. Sometimes collections
Which
are
definitely would be a separate.
And then sometimes collections could be a color thing. Collections could be a size. So I guess I don't know what the better word is to say. I do think you should have your signature, whatever that is, and then you have a studio, whatever that is, and then you have a show, whatever that is. So then when you get ready to do a show, these are my show pieces.
Right.
And then these are my studio pieces. Maybe that's the better word. Studio pieces. And then these are my signature pieces. You know what I mean? And then having pieces to submit. We had the conversation about having at least 30 pieces of work. And maybe that's it, body of work. Have a signature body of work, have a studio body of work, have a show body of work, have a submission body of work. But having that body of work that you're ready to go, just like with your statement, your CV, your resume, you're not scrambling to put things together for whatever you're about to do. You just know that if you're doing a show, I'm not taking anything bigger than 12 by 12. You may have a portfolio with pictures in it with your bigger. I know an artist that does that. She has a portfolio, has pictures of her bigger pieces. And then when she does a show, if you want to say, oh, do you do bigger? Here's my portfolio. And then they could talk commission, or they could talk about what she has in studio and make arrangements for that if they want to buy the piece, and however that works out. I do think also when you do a show, take into consideration having prints or having merch. I think a lot of artists, they think only certain artists do merchandise or only certain artists do prints. You certainly don't have to do prints. But I do think, and what I found is I feel like it's better if you do have prints, because it is a lower price point. People are more apt to purchase. That's why you're doing the show. You're not just doing the show just to meet people. But I think that is a good intro way to introduce people to your art, is to at least have prints and works on paper along with your paintings. So you just have kind of arranged things to sell. In that submission collection of 30, every artist is different, because some people only work in one size. Some people work in a multitude of size. Some people won't work smaller than this or bigger than that. So whatever your body of work is, as far as sizes are concerned, having that 30 pieces, and then also having, if you do different things, if you do sculpture, if you do digital, if you do whatever that is, make sure within that 30 you have a little bit of everything, because then it goes back into that there's a submission for X and they want this, and you're like, ooh, I don't have that. Let me create a sculpture real quick.
Right.
But if you have sculptures within your 30, and you may just have a library of pieces like these, they are for sale, but they're only for sale through submission shows. And then that way you're not selling a piece to somebody that you met randomly, and then now you got to replace that sculpture. You know what I mean? So in my head, for what works for me, or what I think is going to work for me, we don't know yet. But what in my head, what I think is going to work for me is to have the 30. I have 30 to always submit, and they sell through submissions, and then I can always have bodies of work in my studio to put on the website, to show on Instagram, to introduce to clients, and they can buy from that.
Right.
And then that way I don't get in the pickle of there's a submission for 12 by 12s, and I sold all the 12 by 12s last week. And now I don't have any 12 by 12s.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the body of 30 is when I think of the 30 as just a minimum to always have.
Right.
Right. So, you know, as you, over the years, as you continue to work, hopefully, yes, you are selling, but you're probably not going to sell as quickly as you create. So you will always move past the 30, and then it'll be a body of 60 or a body of 90. So you'll always be, you know, you're always creating. So you'll always have more of a body of work to work with. Yeah.
So that's collections, bodies of work, however you want to word it. Just making sure that, you know, you have your signature, some, you know, your studio pieces, some show pieces. If you do shows, if you don't do shows, show pieces, and then make that body of work of a certain number, and you're going to move beyond that number. Social media. To be social or not to be social? That is the question. I do think a lot of artists feel like they have to be on social media. I think it's more so a question of, if you're not on social media, then what are you doing? You've got to be doing something, you know what I mean? We all know that social media is rented space. So whatever your strategy is for your business, whether that is to work on your email list, whether that is to be represented with a gallery, so you don't have to worry about anything except outside of what the gallery asks you to do. Just having something in place and sticking to that, you know what I mean? And if you're doing social, remember that you also still need to build your list, because again, it's rented space, it could go away at any time, and then you want to, it's fine, and then you want to still be able to have your clients to reach out to,
right,
and not rely on, you know, we've seen Instagram go down many times over the years, and people just flip out because everything is based on their Instagram. So I do think that, you know, make the decision, find what works for you. If Instagram doesn't work for you, but TikTok does, be on TikTok. If Pinterest works on you, be on Pinterest. I do think that you have to try everything to find out what works with you. Generally, it is the idea of don't try anything until you're don't try to do TikTok until you're an expert in Instagram. But the issue with that is, if it takes you 5 years to find out you're not an expert, then you've missed all the time on the platform that would have been your platform.
right.
So I do think it is good to find out what really interests you and try it. And try it for 30 days, and then if you're like, yeah, I can't keep this up, or it's not for me, then just move on to the next thing.
Right.
So I do think you need to figure that out. Again, also with social media, staying balanced. You know, life, work, how do you live your life with not having to have your camera out all the time, but at the same time capture your work. I was talking to a friend of mine who does, she's a content creator, and she was telling me to go in the studio and have a tech day, figure out what you want to film, and mark your camera to where your camera is, which we both work in production. You're like, just like, I was like we do our work. She's like, exactly. So go and figure out, it's like, I only want footage of me working. I only want footage above the head. I only want footage of close-ups. Then go in with your camera or your phone, set up your tripods, find your angles, and put down some masking tape. Okay. So when you're ready to film, that's where my camera goes.
Okay.
You're not spending time trying to figure it out every single time you pull out your camera or your phone. You're like, okay, this angle doesn't work. This angle doesn't work. Okay, I need to put it over here. Have a tech day, and you just go in, and if your camera needs to be on your table, if you need to, where does your lights go? Where does everything go? And then just put down masking tape. And that's what we do in production. That's what the actors stand, and then the cameraman stands, and they put tape on the floor, and that's your mark.
Okay.
And so when they say action, the actor just looks and, okay, I'm supposed to land here.
Right.
And it's seamless. And then that way, that takes away the time of you thinking you're going to go into the studio and paint, and the 3 hours that you had planned on painting, 2 hours of it was you trying to figure out camera angles. For you then to be frustrated and not even post it. Right. You get done anyway. Because at that point you're over it. So you're like, never mind, I'll try again next week. So basically making sure that you have that tech day. That also helps you, I feel like it helps you stay an artist and not a content creator. Because you've got that process that you're not trying to make a film. You're not trying to be Wisdom with all the things and that. If you know who Wisdom is, he's a fantastic fashion content creator that films cinematic. You just want to get your process. And so the easiest way to do that is to already know where your things go, already know what your angles are. If you have a teenager, you got a cousin, a nephew, or a niece.
Yeah.
If you're fortunate enough, get them to come in and be your cameraman. If not, and you're doing it yourself, the best way is to do as much prep work as possible. I also think that if you can, and all this is trial and error because I'm going to try this for the rest of the year. Try to have one day. So if you know that whatever that day is, Monday, Friday, Wednesday, if you decide that Monday is my content creation day, then you don't go in with the expectation that you're going to paint 3 paintings.
Right.
And then you're going to varnish 2 and glass resin 5. You know that the only thing I'm going to do today is whatever gets done on this camera. And if the only thing you get done is prepping canvases, but you got it on camera, then it was a successful day.
Right.
So I think just figuring out what works for you, whether it's one day a week or the first hour of every day, or you're going to do it twice a month, but just definitely figure out a way to get the content that you feel like you want to get so you can continue the process of editing and posting. Because there's nothing worse than taking the time to film it, and then again you're so over it that you never. But I have so much stuff in my phone that by the end I was so frustrated that oh my God, I don't feel like being bothered.
Yeah.
So, and if you do that, I think that will help you stay focused in the sense of you don't start. So many artists now feel like they're content creators and they don't want to be. And I think it's the pressure of we feel like we have to post 3 to 5 and we got to do reels and get the trendy sound. And if you kind of throw all that out the window, some of the most successful content creators who aren't artists, but some of the most successful content creators that I follow, when I look at their feed and I look at the content, they're not following all the trends. They don't care what Adam, I can't think of his name, I call him Massimos. But they don't care what the owner of Instagram says you're supposed to do today. They continue to have their process, and they're just as successful as the people who are running behind doing everything that he says to do. So the same thing with TikTok, whatever that is, TikTok, YouTube, whatever your platform is, find what works for you and be consistent in what works for you.
Right. Okay.
Instead of trying to, okay, they said 3 to 5 times a day. Okay, they said do a reel. They said I have to use the song. Just do you. And then that'll help you stay balanced in life, and that'll help you not feel like you're losing yourself as an artist and becoming a content creator.
Okay.
And then if you don't post, you don't post, but don't get caught up in that. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then with that, we're also going to talk more about that in December. The December show will explore that a little bit more and talk about maybe processes. Outside of, I did want to give you that tidbit about the camera right now though, because that was passed on to me. Yeah. But definitely we'll talk more about processes in the next
Well,
show.
I think December we're talking about planning for 2025, right?
Yes, but but in that planning you'll be planning on how you're going to do your content. So you need to have a strategy before the year. Okay. So it's now not June and now you're trying to figure out how you're going to do content. Right. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay. So that's it for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess announcements.
Yes.
Oh, there is, we both have pieces actually. There's a small work show at the Pollinator, which is at the Goat Farm. do you remember that address? 1200 Foster Avenue.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So that's the pollinator. That show is open, I think, until December 13th. So we
15th.
will.
I think they said, because originally it said December 2nd, and now something we have a closing reception on the 15th.
Okay, so it's
December
the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of everything is under $300.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for a gift, it's a perfect time of year to get gifts there. Again, there's art party at Murphy Rail Studio, which is 1280 Murphy Avenue Southwest, and that will be from 5 to 11. So a lot of art will be, all the artists there, plus some of the additional artists are hanging in the hallways. So a lot of art to view.
Is there an artist talk?
There is an artist talk
artist talk
at the end at 5 o'clock. So that's in the building as well. So a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. Oh, our next show will be December 12th, the second Saturday instead of the third Saturday because of Christmas. So look out for that. And that's all I have, really. Yeah, so next month's episode, it's December 14th, excuse me. Goals and intentions, prepping for 2025. So that's what we'll be discussing next month. So some of these things that we discussed today will come up again as, we're preparing for, what are the things that you want to achieve in 2025, and then what processes do you put in place to help you achieve it, basically. So we have 10 more minutes. We have to look for it. Make the art you need to make. Tell the story you need to tell. That's a quote. I love that quote. I really love that quote. So, yep. So that's it for us this month. Thank you for joining in. I hope some of the tips that we've shared will be helpful to you. It's definitely always helpful for me just to have these discussions, because you always learn something new when you're in discussion, always.
Right.
I do anyway, I can say that. So yeah, it's always good. And yeah, that's it for us this month. And we'll see you next month, December 14th, goals and intentions, prepping for 2025. Hope to see you then.
That's it. Everybody have a great Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.